All right. Hello, everyone. Okay, cool. I see people already joining the stream. Very nice. Hello. Please let me know if the audio is good. I know that sometimes um, we have been having issues with audio, so it'd be good to know if it's working out well. Audio's fine. Audio's great. Okay, cool. Okay. Nice. I am going to well, maybe we should wait like another minute just for a couple of people, a couple more people to enter. I'm going to be honest, I'm not feeling particularly great today, so I'm going to try and keep it a little bit shorter than usual. Still cover like all the most important things, but maybe it's not going to be a massive uh, long stream as usual. So okay, I see a lot of people have joined now. So I guess we can actually already start. Yeah, let's get into it. Let me just take a sip of water. Oops. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So let's go into the first thing, which is Army Forge Studio. So, Army Forge Studio, as you all may or may not know, we kind of went live with Army Forge Studio like about a month ago. But due to legal concerns, basically right now when you create a list, it is deleted after 60 minutes. And yeah, so people have been playing with the tool, which has been great because we've been getting feedback, we've been improving it, we've been fixing bugs and stuff like that. And it's actually also really cool to see like how people are actually interacting with the tool. But yes, like I said, for legal reasons, we have set a 60-minute like limit, and then the lists are removed. Good news is that the legal stuff is now pretty much resolved. We are in the very last steps of basically like adding all of the legal requirement things to the app. We're also in the process of developing the last bits of features that we need for moderation. So that people can like report. Um, if there's a list that has some, I don't know, copyright infringement material or some offensive material or something like that, we're developing a small like report feature. And there's other like smaller features that we're putting in place to make sure that legally everything is fine. So I'm expecting that we should be able to remove the auto deletion limit within the next week or two. Hoping within the next week, but I don't want to promise too much. Once the 60-minute deletion limit has been removed, we are going to give you guys like a week or 2 weeks to like go in and make your lists that are now going to be permanent. And then once we see that the whole system has been kind of like populated with enough lists, then we will go live. And then finally, there will be a new section in Army Forge where you'll be able to switch and see all of the fan lists and play them, rate them, report them if there's issues. We'll be making some new channels on Discord to talk about them. Yeah, and it's very exciting that we are actually finally slowly getting there. So yeah, fans of Army Forge Studio, be hype. Okay, next thing. Okay, sure. Let's talk about a little bit about lore. Last month ish. Again, we have finally uploaded all of the new lore into Army Forge. So when you go now to Army Forge, there's a new interface, and when you select an army, it actually shows you like an overview of the lore of the army, and you can go read more. And there's like an extended lore of the army. So this is like the first step into the release of the lore for the OPR universe, and and the next steps are going to be the release of short stories and these sort of like world books, which basically like tell you a bit more about the universe itself, and then eventually start releasing faction books, which tell you lore about the lore of each individual faction. Um, Here I wanted to just showcase some of the art that's going to come in this book, and yeah, the books are filled with art, filled with lore. It's going to be really cool. And yeah, so here the piece of art that we're seeing is, I think this is from early in the book, where we are basically talking about basically like the arrival of, so after a civil war, humanity kind of like tries to escape, and then there's the whole wormhole incident, and they land in the series sector, and they're kind of like scattered. And this illustration here actually shows you like some it basically is showing the initial settlement of humanity in the Sirius sector. So various ships landing on a planet, engineers kind of like analyzing things. You can see that there's some sort of like buildings that are being built. Um, and yeah, so yeah, very cool to see. To actually see the art of this pivotal moment in the story. And yeah, once the book is ready, it's gonna be great. So um, yeah. And well, speaking of lore, like I said, we are also going to be releasing short stories. So the plan is to release two short stories every month, one for Grimdark Future and one for Age of Fantasy. And yeah, basically each short story is about 4 or 5 pages, and it's kind of like giving you little glimpses at different factions and different events and different things, and kind of like delving deeper into the lore of each faction. And yeah, I'm just kind of like highlighting a couple of the stories here, giving you a little teaser. So here there's a Grimdark Future short story called Old Wounds. Old Wounds is actually a short story of the Robot Legions. This is actually a pretty cool story because it's basically the story of a Robot Legion warrior during a battle against the High Elves, and it's kind of like the aftermath of a battle against the High Elves. And as they are sort of sweeping this swampy area, he stumbles upon an old enemy, someone that he met during the robot uprising. And so it's a cool story that really like shows I guess the parallel stories and divide between the robot legions and the high elves. Yeah, it's I don't wanna spoil, so I'm trying not to say too much. Um, so that's pretty cool. By the way, I will also be looking a little bit at the comments and answering little questions here and there. Um, Somebody asked, will the army books be included in the Patreon release first, like scenario packs, or straight through dive through? So the army books continue to be free. The rules continue to be free on Army Forge as usual. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to pay for those rules. The If we're making the faction books, those are 100% lore. And yes, the plan would be that they would be first released on Patreon, and then eventually they would move to drive-through, and then they would be for sale there. And probably we'll have like a small section that's like free to like check out, like as a teaser. Um, and yeah, and yes, there will be also short stories for Age of Fantasy, of course. Here I'm just showing a Grimdark one. Actually, if you go like to the previous stream, like every stream, I'm switching, talking about one from Grimdark and one from Fantasy, and yeah. Okay, cool. So, all right, that was like the initial part. Yeah, I'm really speed running through this because I am not feeling great. So that's about lore and Army Forge. Let's move on to talking about the previews of what is coming next month. So, Human Empire. Time really flies because we're already in the second month of the Human Empire. and it seems forever ago that we announced. Well, hmm, yeah, time flies. It both seems forever ago that we announced Human Empire, and yet somehow it just feels like we're already somehow here on the second wave. Anyway, so previews for next month. What can you see here? So at the bottom of the screen, you can see two characters that are coming in the next release. So on the left, you can see the Empire General. The Empire General comes with tons of weapon options. I think it comes with spear, halberd, sword, great sword. It has a special shield. It has a pistol. It has the male version. It has a female version. Lots of stuff. And a really cool thing about the general is so like each unit usually is part of a specific element, whereas the general is kind of like he's the general of the Empire army as a whole. And so actually they represent all of the elements in some way. So there is actually like a shoulder pad that is like a boar for earth, and then one of the shoulder pads is like an eagle for air. I think on the shield, the shield is water themed. On the chest, there is a star that's ether themed. Then the different weapons have different themes. Like the greatsword is fire themed. So you can actually represent all five elements at the same time, which is very cool. And then on the right, we have the army standard bearer, which is basically like a modified version of the captain now holding the army standard. And actually, the army standard also represents all five symbols. So maybe here it's a bit small, you can't see it, but it has the eagle from air at the top. It has like it's got tentacle from water, like going down. There's like a little gecko lizard thing for fire, and there's like all little sigils for like each thing. It's very cool. So yeah, you're gonna get these two characters. Then you're also going to get the marksman. Marksman, very cool unit, comes with two different weapon options. So you have the marksman with rifles. You can see them on the left, and then at the top you can see the marksmen that come with crossbows. And then on bottom right you can see that they also come with a command group, as always. So musician, standard bearer, and sergeant. The sergeant actually comes with multiple weapon options. Here we're only showing one. So the sergeant actually comes with the rifle with a crossbow. I think it comes with dual pistols as well. It comes with a sniper rifle. It comes with a Gatling rifle. So lots of options for the sergeant. And that's the infantry for the next month's release. And then we go into the bigger units, which is the kind of like the cavalry. And here we have the Griff Riders, really cool models. So it's basically these knights riding these bigger sort of like bird lion monsters. Um, and yeah, so they come with different weapon options as well. They come with lances. They come with halberds. They come with different types of helmets. So they come with these closed helmets. They come with open helmets. They come with a command group. So again, sergeant, musician, standard. So all the usual great stuff that you know and love. And of course, as always, male and female versions of everything. And then for a support, they also this month you'll also get the war wagon. You can see it on the top right. And so the war wagon actually comes in multiple versions. So you are going to have a version with warriors with spears. So they're basically just like stabbing downwards towards the enemy. And then you also get a weapon option for crossbows, so they can all have crossbows to shoot around. On this, you don't see it on this side, but actually on the other side, there's actually like a little boar buddy as well. That's kind of like hanging out there very menacingly. And in the back, actually, there's like these little doors that you can open, and there's um, like a little shrine with like a relic and different things. So yeah, very cool to actually see the first wagon being released. The As always with the Empire faction, everything is kind of like themed to the different elements, and there's five elements. So there's also five sort of like wagons. So you're gonna have the Earth, Fire, the Earth wagon, which is the war wagon. You're going to have the fire wagon, which is like the beamer wagon. You have the air wagon, which is the I think it's called the hurricane wagon. You have the ether wagon, which is the altar wagon, and then for water, which is kind of like the engineering symbol, you're actually going to have the steam tank, which is all like water themed. So yeah, it's going to be very, very cool. Okay, cool. So that was the Human Empire preview. Lots of models as always. Now let's move on to Alien Hives. So, Alien Hives. This is going to be the first month of the Alien Hives, which is very cool. I have been excited about this release for a long time. Um, so okay, what do you get this month for Alien Hives? Alien Hives is basically each month you're essentially getting a double release. So you're going to get a ton of stuff. So instead of the usual like 5 units that we release per army per month, this is going to be 10 units essentially. So 9, 10 units. Um, so what are we getting here? So bottom left, you can see that there is the swarms. The swarms are, I think, the only unit in this release that are not that didn't have any modifications. So it's just they look cool. We like them. Swarms are staying as they were. Then right to the right of the swarm, you can see the assault grunts. The assault grunts are some of the poses basically have been modified to better fit on a 25 mil base. One of the complaints we've been having about them for 3 years literally is that some of the uh, poses were not properly fitting on their base and they're kind of like hanging out. So we have modified them. Now they fit on the base. And we have also added buddies. So on the leftmost pose, you can actually see that there's like a little buddy hanging out on top of the shoulder. The buddies, of course, are optional. So there's also a version without it, but I think it's very flavorful. Then, if you look on the left on top of the swarms, you can actually see two of the heroes. You can see, no, wait, yeah, you can see one of the heroes. So the guy with the rifle held like this and the sort of like pick. That's what is it called? That's the prime gunner. Previously it was just called the prime warrior or something. Now it's called the prime gunner because different primes now, have different kind of like roles, so to say. And so the prime gunner basically is, well, the gunner prime. He comes with tons of weapon options. Again, here we're only showing one. I think he comes with like 6 different like um, ranged weapons. He comes with like 5 or 6 different like melee weapons. So he has like these sort of like swords. He has these sort of clubs. The pick. He has a whip. Lots of options. And then in the middle, you can actually see the. Oh, and he also comes with a little buddy on the shoulder. Of course, optional. And then in the middle, you can actually see the updated. Oh wait, hold on. Actually, no. So yes, the guy on the left of him is the assault prime. So the assault prime is basically like the melee version of the prime, and so when you have the models here, again, it's a bit zoomed out. You cannot really see it that well. The primes are actually a little bit bigger than the regular warriors, and they actually have like different horns on their, on their head, which basically like represent kind of like their rank. So if you look here on the left, you can actually see that the assault prime has like a sort of like curved horn, whereas for instance like the gunner prime has like a more elongated upwards horn. Anyways, so and the assault prime comes again with tons of weapon options, and he comes with left and right versions. So you can have like in this case the dual clubs, or you could have dual swords, but you can have the very classic like sword and whip, double whip if you want. Lots of different things. And they're quite big now. So one of the complaints that we also used to have about the warriors and the primes and all this stuff is that they were kind of small for a tough three unit, and so we have actually now upscaled them. So all of the warriors are now much bigger. I think they're like 50 mil tall, so they're really imposing big models now. And the primes are even bigger than that. So really amazing stuff. Okay, for the rest of all the stuff in the middle is the big, 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 big warrior release. So the warriors come with a ton of options. All of the weapons are new. They come with Whew, okay, let me think. So they come with oh god. They come with these sort of like rifles. They come with the spitters, which are sort of like grenade launchers. They come with the dual pistols. They come with the sort of like shred, a sort of shred rifle thing. They come with an acid cannon, which is sort of like a missile launcher thing. They come with a barb cannon, I think it's called. They come with tons of options. They also come with tons of like melee options. So you have melee options for left and right hand. So you have the slashing sword, the serrated sword. You have the maces. You have the whips. You have the picks. You have the lots of options. And on top of that, you actually have the option to have a version with the guns that has these special melee weapons that are attached to their arms. So if you want to have a cool if you want to have a cool warrior that is also like a kind of like a hybrid, so good at shooting and has some sort of melee capability, then you can have him like holding a rifle and having a weapon attached to their arm with which that can then fight in melee. So really cool. Tons of options. Tons of options. Yeah, already like there's a I okay, like I just to give you an idea of how crazy this release is. So all right, let me just open the files real quick just to let you know. So all right, the Warriors come with 151 STL files. Just the Warriors. So yeah, kind of crazy. There's also, of course, a pose with a buddy because buddies optional as always. If you don't want the buddy, you don't have to have the buddy. But yes, huge unit, lots of stuff, very cool. And what else did we do? So not only did we provide you with a new updated version of the Warriors that is bigger, that has tons of updated weapons, that has the melee weapons, the ranged weapons, and the arm mounted weapons, all that stuff. We are also giving you the additional option for wings. So in the rules, the warriors can be upgraded to have wings, and now in the same unit, you also have the wing upgrade for the body. So if you want, print the version of the body that comes with the wings, and then you have winged warriors. So yeah, very cool. If you've ever dreamed about winged warriors, here they are for you. And yeah, you can see them here in the middle. On top of that, at the top, you can see the winged prime. So the winged prime is, essentially, it's a hybrid between the gunner prime gunner and the assault prime, but with wings, of course. So it's like a flying version, has a different crest, of course, and comes with all the weapon options that you can expect. So all of the various ranged weapons, all of the various melee weapons. You can combine it in 1,000 different ways. So lots of options for you. Um, yeah, very cool. And so not only are you getting all of this stuff, so like we said, the swarms, the assaults, the prime gunner, the assault prime, the winged prime, the warriors. So basically, you're gonna have the melee warriors, the ranged warriors, the warriors with the hybrid, all of this stuff. Then the warriors with the wings, all this stuff, and on top of that, you're also going to get a couple of monsters. So we can see them up here. So on the left, this is maybe not perfectly to scale, but we're trying to fit everything into the page. So on the left, you can see the new version of the burrower. So the old burrower was tiny and its pose was really stiff. This version is massive. I think it's like 130 millimeters tall, something like that. It's a really huge monster. It actually now comes with lots of weapon options. So you can see like the top two claw arms are actually different than the middle ones because those are actually already different weapon options. So you're going to have oh my god, they all the options. So they have the basic claws, then it has the slashing claws, the serrated claws. It has these sort of like club smashing arms. It has whip arms. It has these sort of like pick arm. Tons of options, and it's really an amazing model. Um, Then you are also getting incredible release, I gotta say. And then you're also getting the updated Carnivorex. So you can see it there in the middle. The Carnivorex, the old model, was very, very cool, but it was kind of just, it was just a melee model. And in the rules, the Carnivorex actually comes with tons of ranged weapons. And so we have now actually added all of the ranged weapon options. So I think it's 5 different options for it. So it's got the like the oh god, all the names. The Ravager cannon. It has the Bio Spitter. No, wait. Um, the Spitter cannon. The Acid cannon. Um, the Barb launcher. Wait. Listen, whatever. There's tons of options. Again, we have so many things in this release, and we just cannot fit them all in one screenshot. But I think overall, there was like 6 different versions of the Carnivorex. Also not seen here. There's also an option for the classic version with the tongues in the mouth, and if you want, there's also the regular old school melee version. So if you don't want to put a gun on top, you don't have to have a gun on top. And then on the right, unfortunately, we didn't have a proper render for it by now, by this stream. But you can see the Hive Tyrant. So the Hive Tyrant is a huge model. It's bigger than the. It's like a, yeah. It's bigger than the Carnivorex, but smaller, of course, than the Hive Titan. That thing is enormous. And the Hive Tyrant is basically the updated version, well, of our old Tyrant. Which one of the big complaints that we had with that model was that it had guns. It wasn't very pretty, and it had guns that looked too inorganic. It looked like it literally had just like missile launchers strapped to it and so on. And so we went ahead and completely redesigned it. You can kind of see it here in the silhouette. And this one also comes with multiple options because we're crazy. So it comes with a sort of like acid cannon. It comes with what is called like a fracture cannon, I think, which is kind of like a battle cannon. It comes with this crazy weapon that's like it's like this thing with holes that spits like 1,000 things at once. I don't know what to call it. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's like a shred cannon type of thing. And it actually also comes with the option for these sort of like shoulder mounted like spike launchers. So yeah, this is yeah, very cool. So just to go through it again. So you're getting the swarms, the assault grunts, the prime gunner, the assault prime, the winged prime, the warriors, which includes the winged warriors, the burrower, the carnivorex, and the tyrant. So it's 9 unit releases this month. Um, yeah, really crazy. I saw that there's a question: is the Winged Hive Titan getting an update too? No, the Winged Hive Titan was already fitting the new style that we were. Actually, the Winged Hive Titan was the first model that we made that kind of informed the new style of the Alien Hives. And it's a gorgeous model, so it's not getting updated. That being said, the Hive Titan, the regular Hive Titan that's floor bound. I don't know what to say. That one is getting a big update, and it's going to look very different. And yeah, we're hyped to release that one as well. Okay, so cool. But wait, there's more. So what else do you get next month? Next month, you're also going to get, of course, the legendary. Again, we didn't have the renders ready for you by the stream, but you can see here the next legendary is going to be the Robot Legions. I think it's called the Great Wraith Seer. Basically, it's like an alternate version of the the Great Seer, the Great Seer, Great no, the Great Wraith. That's what it's called. Sorry, there are so many units. Um, and yeah, you can see it here. It's very cool. It's a huge model as usual. And actually, like you cannot see it here very well, but at the bottom it comes like the really cool base, and it's basically this like multi-legged seer that's kind of like climbing on top of this structure. He has like 2 massive swords. He has this sort of like magic nanobot magic thing in his hand with like a sort of like relic. Yeah, it's very cool. It's a huge model. I can't wait for you to see the renders because you're gonna get like a 360 view and let's see the whole thing. But yeah, very cool. And yeah, that's part of the legendary preview. Okay, cool. So this is everything we have for the previews of next month's models. Um, all right, let's move on to the concept art for the models that come out after that. So, boom. Okay, so Human Empire concepts. All right, so this is now a preview for what's coming out in July, essentially. So, number one, you are going to get the battle mages. So, battle mages are kind of crazy because as always we have the 5 different elements, so you are going to get 5 different mages. So usually, whenever you get like a wizard type of hero or a psychic hero in an army, you usually just get one model. It's a cool wizard and whatever, but here you're going to get 5 different wizards. So each wizard is going to be themed after its own element. So you have the earth one, the fire one, the right, the usual stuff. So they're all going to have like different clothing, different assets, all of course based off the same base, so that they're still Empire wizards, but all with different theming for them. And also each mage comes with its own little companion, so you can expect like a cool little boar and the hawk and the salamander, and all the cool little dudes that you expect as always. Yeah, this is gonna be a very cool unit. Um, and actually, here's a cool thing. So, I was talking about the wagons that you're going to get. So, the mm, the war wagon, the altar wagon, the hurricane wagon, and whatever. And so I think 3 of those wagons all will have a special wizard on them. So even more wizards for you to use. Um, Somebody asked, gameplay wise, the mages are all the same units, right? Yes, but we are actually thinking of adding a new additional unit in the game, which is a sort of like mage council, so that you can actually field all 5 wizards or mages as a unit, and then they have like cool little powers and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think that's gonna be very cool to have your gang of wizards coming at the enemy. Yeah. Okay, cool. Then what are you gonna get? So that's the character for the release. Then you're going to get the elites. Right now in the game, I think they are called the elite swordsmen. But I think we're going to change the name to something like elite weapon masters or something like that, because they are, whilst here you can see that they're coming with great swords, they are actually coming with other weapon options as well. And that will be basically a so I think they come with like a great sword, they come with an axe, they come with a mace, they come with a flail, I think. Well, I think they come with 4 different weapons, and so basically, like they're all great weapons, right? They're all on the same theme, but instead of it just being sword masters, they're actually like weapon masters, and they have lots of options. And of course, there's always like male, female heads, all that stuff, and a command group. Hmm, I'm not sure if these ones come with a command group, but I suspect that they do. Yes, I think they come with a command group. Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's the elites. Very cool unit. I've already seen it, so it's very cool. Then we're going to have the. Okay, now we're actually going into the artillery. So this is the first piece of artillery that we're going to be releasing. So it's the Empire cannon. As you very well know by now, each sorry, by the way, I'm constantly like touching my nose because I think I'm having some allergy, and that's also maybe why I'm not feeling so good. Anyway, each unit is based off a different element, and the water element is kind of like the engineering element. So all of the artillery is water themed. So here you can see the Empire cannon, which kind of like has this octopus wrapped around it. It actually comes like with a little octopus buddy in like a bucket underneath. It will come with a crew as well, so you're going to have a sort of like captain and like two other crewmen. As always, male and female versions as well included. All the usual stuff. So yeah, very cool to see the first piece of artillery coming out. What else do you get? Oh, okay, the altar wagon. This is one of the wagons that we talked about. So as you can see here, this one is the ether themed wagon. It comes with this sort of like crazy like ether planetarium kind of device in the back. It comes with a cool well, it's gonna come with a cool like ether wizard with like a crystal ball, and kind of like casting its magic and its spells and whatnot. It comes with a little house for a little like Link's buddy. And in the back, as always, there's going to be like a little relic room. So yeah, this is gonna be very cool. And yeah, as you can see, like all the wagons follow the same. Um, to make sure that the wagons all feel related, they're going to follow the same structure at the bottom, and then of course it's modified to fit the theming and has different things on top and stuff like that. Okay, cool. Then what else we got? We got the oh yeah, this is I think the last unit for the release, and this is the Empire Captain on the Griffin. So this is a huge model. This is, I mean, almost it could have almost just been like the legendary for this month, but whatever. Um, and yeah, so it's a huge model. Comes with this amazing like big griffin, massive wings. The captain I think has like a special sword and then maybe like a special halberd. Don't quote me on that, but comes with weapons, comes with male female option as always, as you can expect. And yeah, I think this is going to be a really epic model once it's released. Um, yeah, expect greatness as always. And yeah, cool. I think this was the 5 units for the Empire. So let's move on to Alien Hives. So I'm going to show you. Okay, cool. So I'm going to quickly show you the couple of the units that have concept art for. But then I will also just take you quickly through the list of all the rest that you're going to get for the Alien Hives in July. So number one, we have here. You can see the rework of the Flamer Beast. So the Flamer Beast was one of those creatures that we thought that the old model looked pretty bad, to be honest. It was not the worst, but pretty bad. So yeah, the Flamer Beast is gonna get a new version. It's bigger than the old one. It looks, as you can see, more in line with the rest of the army. So with the new style of like the scales that we're doing, with the new details that we're doing, with the new types of heads that we're doing, with these sort of like horns and stuff like that. As always, the classic Alien Hives like double eyes feature. Um, and yeah, this is a really cool one. I think this one also comes with the option for buddies, but don't quote me on that. Then we have the okay, so this is the spawning beast. So this is again uh, this is really bigger than the carnivorix. So this is about the same size as the hive tyrant, and or the tyrant beast. And yeah, so the spawning beast is basically, this is actually maybe one of the reworks that is a bit closer to the old model that we had. We kind of liked some of the elements of the old model, but we didn't like the full thing. So yeah, basically this creature is a big beast. But in the back you can see, so it has all of these like sort of big armor plates that protect its back, so they kind of like foil around. And then in the back, it has a lot of like these sort of like egg hatching type of sack. And the idea is that then assault grunts and stuff are in there, and they basically like spawn out of there, and they like just burst out of. It's a transport in a sense, so they kind of like burst out of the back, and then swarm around and attack. Um, so yeah, this is gonna be a really cool beast. And then finally, we have we have the invasion spore. So this one is actually like probably the sorry, this is probably the unit that is getting the most radical rework, because in the old version we had the I think it's called the invasion spore. no, the invasion. What is it called? The invasion transport and the invasion artillery, I think, something like that. And basically, they were sort of like creatures, but they were weird. They didn't really work, and so we decided to go back to the drawing board and start from scratch. And so the invasion spore is basically going to be treated now as well, essentially as this sort of like big egg that is like deployed from the sky, and it kind of like it falls on the ground, and then it spreads out its little legs, and then it can either like grab, like latch onto the floor to be a sort of like stationary thing, or it can use its legs to like crawl around. um, it comes with different weapon options, so as you can see, it has like lots of different like guns sticking out, and those will have different versions of things. So it has the I think it has the barb cannon, the ravager cannon, the acid cannon, lots of weapons, and then the front shell can basically open like a door, and it can either be empty, so it opens up and basically it releases whatever it's transporting, or you have an alternate version that instead of a transport, when it opens up, it has a mortar cannon inside, so it can fire spores essentially, and then it becomes invasion spore launcher thing, whatever. So yeah, very cool. These are flamer, spawning, and invasion. These three are the big reworks for the month of July, but there's lots of other units that you're going to get and that are being reworked. So let me quickly take you through what else you get in July. So, all right, other things that you're going to get. So you are going to get a new modified version of the Snatcher Lord. Basically having the same treatment as those units. The Snatcher Lord wasn't properly fitting on its base, so it's been slightly reposed to fit on its base, and we have given it buddies. A new version of the Hunter, actually, that's very cool. It looks like the one that you kind of know, but we have changed. We have added some additional arms for it, and it now has like lots of different weapon options, and it's also a bit bigger than it used to be. Snatchers have been slightly reposed, and I think maybe one of them comes with a buddy as well now. Not 100% sure. But they have been slightly reposed to fit on the bases better. Uh, Winged grunts are also slightly reposed and being re-released as well, so that they fit on the base better. You're going to get a new updated version of the Synapse Floater and the Venom Floater. They are the same models as now, but we have improved all of the texture work on them, because the old texture was kind of like blurry and almost looked like the model was out of focus in a sense. And so we have sharpened and highlighted all of the textures, and we've also slightly recut them to make them easier to like assemble. And then finally, you're going to get an updated version of the Toxicorex, and that's basically again like the same type of thing that we're doing with the floaters, where the model is the same, but we're basically like sharpening its textures. We're kind of like making sure that it looks updated and more in line um, with the new style. Okay, cool. All right, so we've talked about the Empire for July. We've talked about the Alien Hives for July. What do we got? The last thing actually is the legendary for July, which is. All right, we are going back to the Mummified Undead for a moment, and we are releasing, I think this is called the Skeleton Titan. Um, so the concept here is that you basically have this massive, enormous titan. Maybe it used to be a god titan that has kind of like died, and has been resuscitated as some sort of like massive skeleton. Lots of details, lots of cool stuff, lots of theming. And you can see on the right that there is like a patch in the back, and they're basically, so imagine like, okay, the skeleton titan had kind of like died. Well, whatever. This titan had kind of died, and then over time, it was kind of just part of the environment, and then the mummified undead kind of like built structures on it, and then eventually it's reanimated, and now it pops off the ground, and so it even has like still the structures that were built on top of it, like in the back. Anyway, let me show you the pose. You understand what I mean? Yeah. So here you can see it. So the idea is that the pose should really look like it's bursting out from the ground, ready to like attack. Absolutely massive, absolutely scary. And you can see, yeah, in on its back, it has like a bunch of like structures and stuff like that. Yeah, really looking forward to this one. I think it's gonna be absolutely awesome. Um, okay, okay, nice. So cool. We have now. Wow, that was really speed running. I have wow, yeah, 45 minutes, and I've managed to go through all of the slides that we have. Somebody asked, does it move or will be stationary like artillery? Well, I mean, the model doesn't move, but the idea is that, eventually it would fully burst out of the ground, and then, you could see its legs, and then it would like move around, move around and attack and fight and whatever. Okay, so we are already at the last part of the stream, which is a Q&A. So as always, every month we provide a link for Google Forms where people can provide their questions. I'm going to go through that right now okay, and answer those questions. But after that, you can start posting your questions in the comments, and I will make sure to check them out. Yeah, so I can answer, and yeah, we can have a tiny Q&A. So let me take a look at the questions that we had for this month. So, all right. Hold on, let me take a sip of water. Okay. All right. Number one question. Where did your dream of OPR start? When did you realize the dream could be an actual job? Well, the dream started in 2014. Long story short, basically, I had come back from college. I had found my old miniatures. I thought, oh, it would be cool to play a game. I found out that to play these games, you would have to spend a ton of money and learn huge books. And I thought, well, what if I made a version of this game in one page? So for people like me that don't have a lot of time. So the dream really started then. I mean, I have always dreamed about dreamt, whatever, about being a game designer. Like I remember, I was talking about this with my mom. Like I remember literally making very basic board games. I mean, when I was a kid, like I think when I was already like 5 or 6, I was already kind of like dreaming about that. And then when I was growing up, I remember I was making like these sort of like board games with my cousin when I was like 10 maybe. And then I got into modding for video games and stuff like that. So um, the dream existed since forever, really. Specifically, the dream for OPR started in 2014. So we're almost at the 10-year anniversary, actually. When did you realize the dream could be an actual job? Um, it took me a while. I think that at first I thought that it was just gonna stay really small. And then maybe like after a year or two, when it was like, okay, this is like people kept joining the cause and people kept loving the games and stuff like that. And then I was like, wait, maybe this could be an actual thing. And then in 2017, I thought, okay, let me just actually try like opening a Patreon to basically try to make some money so that I can start, hiring an artist to make cover art and stuff like that. So I would say probably around there, like around 2017, I was okay. This could be like a thing. Um, and then I think it was around 2019, 2020 when we started releasing the minis, and the project actually started getting like enough money where it was like, okay, I can actually do things with this. Where I was like, okay, this is a job. And then I think it was April 2021. Yeah, about 2 years ago, I actually quit my full time job, and this became my full time job. So, um, yeah, crazy journey. Okay. Somebody asks, I think that you have mentioned that there are no specific baddies in OPR. Why? Well, I always think of OPR of the OPR universe as a setting. Um, So I think about it as a setting in which stories take place. And so good guys and bad guys is then relative to who that story is about. So for example, in in Grimdark Future, we have the story of the robot legions and the high elf, right? So the high elves built the robots as servants. The robots eventually gain sentience. When the high elves realize this, they try to eradicate them. Big civil war or whatever, big war, uprising, rebellion thing. And then, whatever, they kind of like split off, and the high elves go into space, and the robots stay on their planets and whatnot. And so, if you're telling this story from the perspective of um, the robot legions, um, the high elves are baddies, 100%. But if you then go and tell a story from the perspective of the high elves stop being baddies. So baddie really depends on what the perspective is. Um, and to me it kind of like reflects in a sense how life really works. Like, there is no black and white, everything is kind of gray. I didn't really want to create a setting where it's just like, oh, here's the bad guys, here's the good guys, and just the classic story. I wanted something where there is more nuance and where there is more space to explore stories. And also for the players, I always think about it like, um, I almost think about it like an RPG. So like any species in the game, any faction in the game, a player might actually say like, "Hey, I'm going to play as this faction," right? And so in that sense, they should have the freedom within the setting to kind of explore both being good or being bad, as that faction, relative to the stories that they're telling and what happens. So that's why there are no specific baddies in OPR. Next question. Would you like to review the unofficial FAQ made on Discord? So I actually have the FAQ. I have multiple FAQs that people have created, bookmarked, and I'm actually using those to inform the 3.0 updates. So I am, well, first I'm completing all of the updates that I want to do, and then I'm looking at the FAQ and I'm updating the and any part of the rules that is not clear or whatever. I'm updating it based on the FAQ, but there are things in the FAQ that I don't think really fit, really edge cases that I don't think make sense to burden the rules with, so to say. And so the plan is that with 3.0, there will be a dedicated FAQ PDF that will be released on the website, to kind of talk about all the edge cases. When can we expect the announcement of the next sci-fi army? Well, you're in luck. It's going to happen today. The roadmap is going to come out in a while, but still should be today. And we're actually going to talk about the next sci-fi army. If you're a patron on Discord, you already know what I'm talking about. So I am quite excited. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, how opposed would you be to the idea of breaking the Age of Fantasy goblins up into a base one and then 3 detachment armies? I like the idea. I'm going to be honest. I do think that the current way that the goblins are written is kind of a little clumsy. And I'm actually going to probably rework them as part of 3.0. But I don't know that I really want to split them into 3 detachments right now. It's a type of thing where I feel like we really would need to get to the point where we're making the models, to feel confident and say like, okay, like, there is enough content here that we can use and maybe even expand on to make 3 armies. The games already have so many armies. It's kind of crazy. I think there's over 50 armies in the game, and then there's attachments and all that stuff. So I'm very hesitant to keep fracturing things and having more and more and more armies in the game. Will we see bases with a magnet socket or hole in the future? So the bases are actually designed with, they have a hole underneath, and I think it's a hole that's designed for hold on, one there are these magnets that people use, and the bases have a gap that is designed to fit with those magnets. Let me double check, and I think in the description of the bases we actually always say what it is. Yes, the bases have a 2 millimeter hollowing underneath for 2 millimeter tall magnets, so you can use those. Um, is there a way that we can be advised on a single platform if there are sculpts that are faulty and have been repaired? Well, it would be MMF. We have talked to the people from MMF about it. Supposedly, this is a feature that is in the works somewhere in their pipeline. But yes, we would love to be able to, whenever we update a model, have an automatic message sent out to everyone that says like, "Hey, this item in your store, this file has been updated. Make sure to check it out." Right now, it's tough because because we are not because we don't have such a system, such an automated system. It's tough to give this information out in a clear way that nobody will miss. Usually, we say it on the Patreon posts, or we will say it on Discord, depending on how big the issue is. But yes, we would love to have a more robust system within my manufacturing that allows us to inform everyone when a model has been updated, but we just don't have it right now. You said last time you'll be making little friends for all factions. Can we have some skeleton kittens for the mummified undead? That's a cute idea. I think the buddies for the mummified undead are probably going to be like the little critters that we already have in the swarm. So different types of little scarabs, different scorpions and stuff like that. But I think it would be very cool if we could have like a skeletal kitten for like maybe for the queen, or maybe for the priest or something like that. That's not a bad idea. I like it. Um. Oh, okay. This one's cool. Hey, what's up with the monkey teaser on Discord? Are we getting a monkey faction, or is it a buddy for an existing faction? So, yeah, I had shown a teaser for a sort of like monkey model that we're currently working on, and that's actually part of the Empire faction. So basically, some of the units in the Empire, most of the units in the Empire faction are part of the Empire army. So they follow the elements, blah 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 blah, all that stuff. But there's a couple of units that are actually not part of the army. So there's a unit of mercenaries. I think they're currently called the militia, but they're being reworked to be mercenaries. And the hunters are also going to be mercenaries. And we actually also have the bounty hunter, which is also a mercenary. And so each one of those mercenary units will have its own buddies that are not part of the faction. And so I think the bounty hunter, well, I don't want to spoil, but they come with different buddies, and so the monkey is part of the buddies for these sort of like mercenary units. Um, will the resin for the painting competition be coming back? Not anytime soon. So we were working with Atlas on the we're working with Atlas on the resin for the competitions, but there were problems with the logistics and the costs of it and the import costs, and it was crazy, to work with that. There was a time where we were trying a lot to contact and talk to all the various big resin companies, and get them to sponsor it, but I'm going to be honest, the communication with them was very, very difficult. They were unresponsive, essentially, and so we couldn't rely on it. So we kind of are currently in a situation where it's like we don't really have a proper way. And then there's other issues with like logistics and um, tax issues with us doing like giveaways and stuff like that, of resin and coupons and stuff like that. It's not so easy here in Portugal, and so I would not expect resin to come back, maybe even ever. But who knows? Maybe if we can work out a deal with someone, it could come back. Okay, this is interesting. What factions would OPR have if no other war games were a thing? It's really, really hard to tell because um, since I was a little kid, I have been influenced by um, sure, Warhammer and 40K, but also the classics like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and all of these other big franchises. So um, it's really, really hard. It's really, really hard to think. I don't know. Okay, so I'm really trying. So if I were to try and think of like all the factions that we have that are not based on, say, some sort of archetype that is also represented in Warhammer, I suppose we would have maybe the classic Lord of the Rings style archetype. So you would have humans, you would probably have the elves, you would probably have dwarves for sure. Maybe you have like treemen, right? So that makes sense to me. Um, you would probably have sort of like these goblins, although I'm not sure how big of a difference there would really be between an orc and a goblin if we had started from there. I think Ratman would be a thing because I remember as a kid I watched Secret of Nim, and I was very inspired by that. Dinosaurs would definitely be a thing because I love Jurassic Park. Mummified undead stuff would probably be a thing because of influences from things like those movies like The Mummy or even like Stargate that had like all of this Egyptian aesthetic. Let me think. What else? Definitely influences from Star Wars. So I could probably imagine that we would have maybe sort of like Jedi type of things. Um, Maybe robot armies that are kind of like based off the ideas from the little Roger robots from Star Wars. Maybe some sort of like Empire clone troopers army. Um, yeah. Uh, which actually, now that I think about it, that's a lot of the stuff that's already represented. Probably we would do historical based stuff. So like Inca, I was always a big fan of like Aztec and Mayans and all that stuff. Probably some Japanese inspired stuff. I always loved those things. I think as a kid I played a game called, I think it was called Shogun. Definitely mechs, influences of mech stuff, but probably more based off mech things from the 90s that I used to see. Yeah, I suppose it would literally be like all the things that made me dream and fantasize when I was a kid in the 90s, and now you would probably see them be represented in some ways. Maybe an ape army, Planet of the Ape inspired army. Yeah, hard to tell. In the last stream, I asked if there will if what? In the last stream, I asked if there will come new paper orc models or if the old ones will be available again. I didn't hear an answer. Could you answer again? Okay. We are currently only doing paper models of armies for which we have 3D models. Since we don't have orc 3D models, we don't currently have any paper armies for them. Eventually, once we do have the orc 3D models, we will make the orcs again as paper models. Um, Will we get official art for any of the released factions before the release of the world books and faction books? Rift Demons, Ratman, Sister, and stuff like that. We are working on a lot of art, including art for factions that have been released more recently. You will probably see it floating around on the website. You will see it floating around in posts. You will see it floating around. You will see it being used as cover art for the short stories. So you will see it floating around. Will we see an art gallery on the website that will include all the images of the faction logos? Um, so here's the thing: we currently don't actually have, because we don't actually have all of the factions fully designed, and not all factions concepted. It's hard to make faction logos. We want to make proper faction logos for all the factions in the games, and probably also for the detachments and all that type of stuff, right? But it's hard to do that without proper concepts. So not in the near future. That's the answer. Okay, so that was all the questions from the Google form. Now let me take a look here. If there were any questions. Okay, let me quickly go through the questions from the chat and then we will wrap this up. Okay, still talking about the giant skeleton. Will there be a future version with legs? Who knows? Maybe. Um, da, 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 da. Any news about the release of third edition? No news, but I'm going to be honest. I've had less time to work on it than I wish because I was traveling, then I got ill, Now we're actually in the process of hiring new sculptors, so that's been taking up a lot of my time. We've been dealing with all the legal stuff for the Army Force Studio, so I don't currently have any news. I think it's probably going to be the type of thing where, maybe in a week or two from now, I'm going to be able to get back into it and then just like churn it out and just like finish it in a week, and then hopefully it will be released soon. But yeah, I don't have any further news. Um, mm, 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 mm. Are Dark Elf Raiders good guys? Sure, why not? Like it's Dark Elf Raiders are not bad guys at all. So in our lore, the Dark Elf Raiders are basically the lower classes of the elves that were left behind during the Robot War. So basically, when the Robot War starts, all the rich people, essentially the rich and the noble and whatever the high class, essentially like shut down the ports so that they can flee and they leave the lower classes behind, kind of like as fodder, and then those escape and they form gangs and things, and those become the Dark Elf Raiders. So maybe from the perspective of the noble and arrogant high elves, the Dark Elves are bad guys and scum because they're raiders. But from the Dark Elves' perspective, they are definitely the good guys, and the High Elves are the bad guys. So yeah, the Dark Elves are not bad guys. Blah 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 blah. Okay. Uh, do we lose older files when you update the new hives? So you should definitely check out the Patreon roadmap, because we kind of like explain it there. And so some of the basically wherever units are just being updated with extra options, you are basically getting those for free, and the files are being updated. So you're not losing anything; you're just getting extra options. Wherever you have units that are being completely redesigned, like for instance, I had shown you the flamer and stuff like that, those old units you're going to keep them, and we're going to make a new store item on my mini factory with the new models. So essentially, you're not losing any old files. So if the files are being updated in a way that you have like extra stuff, you're keeping the files, and with the new stuff is there. If the files are being substantially changed, then you keep the old files and a new version is released. How is the process of introducing a new unit to a faction? Is it difficult, or is it something that kind of evolves over time? It depends. So, nowadays we have a problem, kind of, in that because we're making miniatures, there is sort of the expectation that if we add a unit, well, we're going to immediately make models for it, which is not that simple because, to make a model nowadays and to really work with our pipeline, there's a whole pipeline behind it, right? We need a concept artist to go ahead and make the concept. That needs to go through a whole pipeline of concepting to make sure that the quality is high, that everything's right. Then we need to take someone essentially out of the current production and put them on making that model. So there's all of that. Then that's additional resources spent into supporting the models, and doing renders. So and then eventually would have to be released. So if we it's the process of adding a new unit in terms of rules is very streamlined. We just add a new rule. It's very easy. It takes me 5 minutes. Boom, it's live, and you get to enjoy it. The process of making a new unit, adding a new unit in terms of models, is much more complex. So you're much more likely to see, so to say, you're much more likely to see new units being added without getting a new model than a simultaneous release of a new unit, in terms of rules, and a new model for it. Okay. Will OPR 3rd edition have a new art style and cover pictures for the rulebooks? Okay, so it's a bit complicated because also the whole art pipeline now, you have to understand, as the project grows and as we're doing more and more and more things, that we have more and more people involved, Yes, it means we get to do bigger and better and greater things, but it also means that now there is a lot more process in place because things have to be consistent. There's more people involved. There's more reviews. There's more of this stuff. It is what it is. So I would have loved to have completely new cover art made specifically for third edition from scratch. But we simply won't. If we want to release the third edition as soon as possible, we won't be able to have dedicated cover art made for it. What I'm thinking right now is if you go currently on our website, when you open the website and you scroll down and you see like all the games, each game actually has a piece of art on there that represents the game, but that is not the actual cover art. So what I'm thinking is we're probably going to do something like this because if we release third edition and we keep the art the same, I think it's going to cause confusion. So temporarily, we're going to use that art for the covers, and eventually we will actually update the cover art completely. And eventually, also we're going to update the art inside and stuff like that. It's really that thing of like, what do we want? What matters most? Do we care more about having a shiny new product for you in terms of like art and layout and design and stuff like that, or do we care to give you a more balanced, a more interesting, a better made version of the game rules? For me, coming from my background, I think it's much more important that you get a third edition in terms of rules, and then that all the other stuff gets updated later, rather than the other way around. Okay. Wait, did you just tease orcs? No, I did not tease orcs. Every faction will eventually be made. That's already there. So I guess I'm teasing every faction in the game. Wait, what about this giant skeleton? Is there a mummified undead overhaul or what? So, no. Important to understand. The only overhaul that we had a plan for was the alien hives. Check out the last stream. I go more into in depth as to why. What you can expect is that some ranges will get some small additions. So like some heroes may be given like additional weapon options, or some units that are meant to have a specific weapon option that we never modeled are going to get that. And this might be something random that we do here and there, again depending on how we manage to fit it within our pipeline. But there is no plan to overhaul any other faction except for the alien hives. The alien hives was the only one with this plan. I know that some people are now kind of a little afraid that like, oh, you're overhauling the alien hives, so are you just going to go back and start just redoing the armies you already have? That's not the plan. Alien hives was the only army that we planned that for. In Orc Marauders, what are the goblins? Teenage orc, stellar worker, male, female. Goblins are just a different faction. Well, they're just a different species. So they're actually not related to the orcs, so to say. Sure, they are part of the same faction right now. Who knows? Maybe one day they're gonna have their own faction book with their own units. But lore-wise, they're not species related to the orcs. Any info on how the concept art for elves might look like? No. Are goblins a separate faction in Grimdark Future Potential? Yes, why not? Any news on the Warfleet beta? Well, the Warfleet beta is still there. It's available to all patrons, so you can go check it out there. You have access to all of the 17 factions that are there. We are currently working on a Army Forge integration of Warfleets so that you'll be able to build your fleets in Army Forge just like you do right now for Grimdark Future and stuff. So the plan is that once that is ready, then Warfleets will become part of the main. It will be publicly released. That's what I'm trying to say. What's up with dragons in Age of Fantasy? Are they intelligent? If they were hunted by the chivalrous kingdoms, why are they in so many other factions? Truly, I don't want to go too much into this. Are they intelligent? There are some dragons that are more intelligent than others, I suppose. So yes, it's true that within the Vale, the area where the Chivalrous Kingdoms are, which used to be an area filled with like big monsters, they have basically killed and run everything to extinction that was there. But that doesn't mean that they have killed off all the dragons throughout the whole of the continent of Tyria. So yeah, that's why there are still dragons, because the Chivalrous Kingdoms were not able to mass murder everything in this entire place. Um, do you think there is a greater demand for a 6mm style game? A greater demand than what? I know that there is a demand for it, and there are plans for it, and we are working on the models, and we're working on the minis, but oof, production be slow. Production be slow. Eventually will come out. Any news on the terminal packages? Nope, no news. If I had some, I would have shared some. Any cool details to share about Age of Fantasy Quest? Also, no news. We're still working on it, but it is what it is. And okay, this is the last question I'm going to answer. No mounted mages. We currently don't have any plans for models for mounted mages. No. The robot horse that you're mentioning here is actually part of the engineer. So the engineer comes with the robot horse. But we don't have any plans for the mounted mages right now. Could be maybe cool for us to do it. I don't know. Like I said, it's not really in the plans. I'll see. Maybe I'll write a note down. It is an interesting idea. So, but there are currently no plans. So don't take this as any sort of like confirmation or whatever of your dreams. It's just I'm just writing it down as a possible. Mages on horses. Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to end the stream here. Thank you everyone for coming around. I will soon post this stream on the website, and there will then be a link to another form for you to ask all the questions that you have. Yeah, thank you for coming, and next stream will probably be around 29th of June. So, yeah. Cool. I'll see you then. Bye bye, everyone.